So before we get into explaining or I show an example of what to do, I just wanted to give you some tips, and I can understand how this is confusing. It even says so in my announcement. So just make sure you've gone through the announcement to see that you can identify what it is that you're doing. Okay. And that's one of the first places that you can start. The other one, as I'm sure you've already known, is that Unit 3, Activity 2 has a video at the top that explains what you're doing as well, right in here. So I just wanted to make sure that you saw that as well. So when we're going through, what it's asking you to do is thinking about quotations, because in a news report, you're basing it on reality and facts. And in order for a reporter to report on those facts, they need to interview people. And so using quotations is a really important skill. If you're writing essays, if you are doing a number of activities where you might need a news report outside of a news story, using quotations, you'll find them in a number of places. So what it's really saying to you is that when you're taking information from one source and putting it in something that you're writing, there's 3 key ways that you can do that. Okay, so going through here, you can introduce it with a colon. It's right there. So what I found interesting is that it kept saying how you introduce the quote. And then down here, when I found all of these, there's actually no single quote where it's actually introduced. So that's kind of interesting. So what we're doing is we're just looking at all the different ways that you can transition from your own words into a quotation. So the first one is the author created this. The scientists warned the public about the dangers of melting permafrost, colon, and then started the quote. The second one is using an introductory or explanatory phrase, but not a complete sentence separated with a comma. There's the comma right there. The scientist said, quote. The third way that you can do it is make a quotation on your own from your own sentence without any punctuation and going into. So here we see between could and the quote, there is no punctuation, but we've definitely stated who it was that stated that particular quote. Okay, so those are the 3 ways that you can take information from an interview or a quotation if you're doing essays and integrate it into your sentences. I see a lot of students that do a standalone where they just throw in a quote, and that's not necessarily the best way to do it. You can do that if you've got a full sentence and then you're using your quote as an explanation. But what we're looking at here is that in a story, you definitely want to make sure that you're introducing it or transitioning out of it using these punctuation marks. So in order to complete this assignment below, what I did is I created a whole document. I find it easier than flipping back and forth. I do a snip of what it is that I'm supposed to be using, or the guide of what I'm supposed to be doing. And then I even took a snip of the quote that I wanted to use. So what you're being asked to do is a number of things. I needed to identify what the quotation method was. So that's why I have it right up top, right? So I identified that because there's a comma here, it's not introducing it, but it's after. And then there's another quote here too. The author used number 2, as you can see the comma after right there. Okay. So then what I need to do is rewrite it using method 1 or 3, run and 3, I should say. So if I know that it's number 2, I need to rewrite it using a colon. Okay. University of Florida lepidopterist Andrew Warren stated, colon. There's the quote. Then I needed to use number 3. So I need to use no punctuation. Florida lepidopterist, I'm probably massacring that word, but Andrew Warren stated that the process of ecological changes can be seen if this butterfly, and I had to insert a word to make sure that it makes sense. So that is something that journalists use that when they're reporting on something and they need to insert a word that the person didn't actually say, they can do that, but they have to use those little boxes. If this butterfly has lived in the Tana River Valley for so long, blah, blah, blah. So this is without it. This is with a colon, and then I identified number 3. There's an actual third part that you need to do. So that's really what I would recommend doing, is on one document, see if you can put on this little snip here, see if you can put the quotation right underneath it, and then just identify the parts that you need to. So it's just a matter of paying attention to the punctuation and how you can introduce those quotes, or how you can change how the quote is read within your paragraph.